Hey folks, welcome back to another video on living in Halifax. I'm Tom Moore, a local realtor here with RE/MAX in town. Today we're going to be going over what it's like living in the South End of Halifax. Now, this is one of, if not the premier neighborhood in the whole province. You've got high price point houses, very historical neighborhood. We're going to be going over a few different factors. I chose the beautiful Point Pleasant Park to start this intro off, which is a part of the neighborhood, but today we're going to be going over what the vibe is like, what the housing situation is like, the transportation, the amenities, and the walkability score, just to give you a good idea for who this neighborhood is a good fit for. All right, let's get to it. All right, so let's get started with the vibe of the South End. Now, this is a neighborhood that has a lot of different things going on. It's a very high-priced neighborhood due to its proximity to downtown, as well as Point Pleasant Park and some other amenities located throughout the area. You're close to hospitals, you got good schools, but you also have St. Mary's University and Dalhousie University. So that adds a whole other element in regards to who's living here. You're obviously going to have those students, which really bring new life into the city during the start of September into October, and then obviously right around when they're leaving in the spring. So you do have that kind of cool dynamic in the neighborhood. Other than that, though, you're going to have a mix of families in certain parts, usually a little bit lower price than maybe the super high priced areas. You're still going to find families throughout the whole place, but the other big, I guess, demographic you would find in the South End is people who move to the South End. It's usually going to be kind of their last stop in homeownership, right? It's at the higher end. You have bigger lots down here. You're going to just kind of be able to feel that walkability and that friendliness throughout the neighborhood. So that kind of leads me into my next point, is you're going to see like a lot of kids playing on the streets, just people outside walking, people walking dogs, and people that really care about their property. And this all comes with just being in a higher price point, as well as all the other things that make the South End a great space to live. So when it comes to housing in the South End, you're going to have a wide variation of price ranges as well as options. As you move towards Point Pleasant Park, or the tip of the peninsula, your property prices are going to rise. And that's just because the properties tend to be larger, the property houses tend to be a lot larger, and you're closer to Point Pleasant Park, as well as being able to access the ocean, whether through Arm or through the harbor. So a house like this is obviously going to be costing you well into the 7, maybe even 8 figures. And that's just because it's on a larger lot, nicer house. Maybe it's got a lot of character, something along those lines. When you move towards the middle of the peninsula, or Citadel Hill, Quinpool Road, these tend to be a bit more modest sized homes, 3, maybe 4 bedrooms. Lots of those houses are shingled, have a ton of character, but they might be priced in the mid to high 8s and 7s. It'll really depend on if there's been work done to it or whatnot. Now, the other interesting thing that I mentioned about this neighborhood is that you do have both of the universities. So even though there's a really, really big rental market here, you're not going to find too many houses that make sense in terms of an investment property, right? A duplex will go well above $1 million. Now, it might be a big duplex, but those numbers generally are not going to line up. So what that brings me to is the renting scene here in the South End. And you're going to have a mix of those kind of student style homes that are well taken care of and whatnot, but they may rent it for the bedroom. And then you're also going to occasionally come across a fully detached house that you might be able to rent, or one of the more modern condo buildings, or even one of the older condo or apartment buildings that are scattered throughout. I'll be sure to throw a little bit of footage in of those so you know what I'm talking about. But generally in the South End, this is the highest price point, just because you're close to hospitals, close to downtown, close to really nice parks, and you've got the ocean pretty much a 5-minute walk on either side. Well, folks, if you are enjoying this walkthrough of the South End of Halifax, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be creating a lot more content around the individual neighborhoods in Halifax, as well as some other stuff on what it's like living here. So if you haven't already, this is the spot to get that information if you're thinking about moving here. And if you're from the South End, or if you have an experience in the South End, then be sure to leave a comment below about what it's like to actually live there. All right, let's get back to it. When it comes to amenities, the South End is plentiful. It doesn't have that walkability that, say, the West End or the North End might have, but you've got little coffee shops here and there. You've got a few grocery store, strip malls, I would call it, where you can get groceries, pharmacy stuff, liquor store. And then you're also going to have a couple little pockets of walkability areas. So Quimpool, which is one of the borders of the South End, has a ton of mom and pop shops. And then you've also got downtown, which also borders the South End. Now, the South End is a large area, so you're going to vary in terms of how far away these amenities are. On the very high end, I would say if you're in the deep South End, which is farthest away from the most amenities, but ironically also some of the highest priced properties, you may have a 20-25 minute walk to downtown. But I mean, everything you really need is here. You've got a high school that's relatively new just on the outside of the border. You've got downtown, as I mentioned, and you've also got the Children's Hospital, which services the entire region of the Maritimes. But you also have the Adult Hospital, which is very close by as well. So you're really going to have an access to all those amenities. On top of that, you're also going to have the ocean, which is about a 5 to 10 minute walk. Doesn't matter where you are in the South End. And you're going to have quite a few parks, namely the Commons and Point Pleasant Park, which both kind of are on the edge borders of the neighborhood as well. Okay, let's talk about transportation options. Now, the South End it borders downtown. So if you're looking to commute, you can basically either walk it depending on where you live, or you can take your car. And again, it's going to be probably 5, maybe 10 minute commute to downtown Halifax. Other kind of unique aspects of transportation in the neighborhood, right behind me there is the Via Rail train station. So this is the train station that services all of Halifax. You've also got the bus station right there, Maritime Bus, which takes you, throughout the province and the Maritimes as well. The Halifax International Airport, I would say, is about a 40-minute drive from down here. And there's also bus lines that do run through the neighborhoods on the various arteries. So if you do want to take the bus, then that's an option. But again, the South End, although it's quite large, the longest walk to downtown is probably going to be about 30 minutes. So if it's a nice day out and it's summer or fall or spring, then you can definitely walk. But otherwise, it's going to be about a 5-minute drive, or you can take the bus to get downtown as well. Now, getting over to Dartmouth, probably about a 25-minute drive. But most people here who are going to live in Halifax are going to be working in the downtown core, or maybe they're walking to one of the local shops there as well. The walkability in the South End can vary. Obviously, this neighborhood is quite large, so depending on where you are coming from or going to, you may need to drive. Now, I spoke earlier about the distance to the downtown, and on the very far outskirts of the neighborhood, you're probably looking at maybe a 30-minute walk to downtown. But generally in your neighborhood, you're going to be able to get to a convenience store, or in some cases a grocery store, within a walk of your house. So when it comes to getting around, whether you're commuting or driving, you're still close enough that you're going to rank pretty high when it comes to all of Halifax. I think the only two neighborhoods that I would rank as higher in terms of walk score would be the West End and then the North End. So these are kind of ultimate walk score for the greater Halifax area, and the South End is a close third. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video on living in the South End. It gives you a bit more of a perspective of what it's actually like to kind of live, get around, shop, do all the stuff you need to do, and commute from. So once again, I'm Tom Moore. I work with RE/MAX here in Halifax. If you have any questions about living in Halifax, or if you're thinking about making a move, then be sure to reach out. Other than that, have a great day.